slippers from
Any old
Matalan. Do you know what I mean?
Argos.
And he's like, oh no, mom, they're custom.
Like, but for her,
She was eating that shit.
yeah,
Loving
but
it.
and this is the point I made earlier. When you are an empty person who is seeking out love, but also a reality check, and before you go the wrong way in life, you're at the fork in the road. You need to take the right road. You need someone who's going to check you, tell you you're talking shit, and steer you into the right path.
Yeah.
His mother, he had her on strings. She didn't have every single lie he told her. She bought it hook, line, and fucking sinker.
Straight in, yeah.
He got her a basic instinct keyring.
Yeah.
Now, as you later find out, if you've seen Basic Instinct and you know Luca Magnotta and you know how he murdered people, there's a direct connection. She didn't manage to link those two.
Well, no, that's because
How
he
could
didn't.
you not, man?
In this woman's
You're
mind,
wandering around with a fucking Basic Instinct keyring.
He
The
didn't do
guy's recreated the murder,
He didn't
spoiler
do
alert, in the fucking video, and you haven't pieced that together.
I love the idea there are people out there watching and going, Basic Instinct.
Even his alibi is straight out of Basic Instinct
Yeah,
as well.
that's
How
amazing,
is she not
actually.
gonna? So anyway, the stupid bitch, right? She sits there and she goes, "What's really sad is they're going after the wrong guy.
Yeah.
They got it all wrong.
Yeah.
What they really should be looking for is the puppet master."
And at that point, I was like,
I must admit, right? She got me a bit.
This is good.
I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, this
Yeah.
is getting good.
Yeah.
This is mental. This is weird.
Yeah.
Where are we going next? And it just turned out that he just made up some guy's name. And it sounds just like one of the people off of the
from
movie.
Basic Instinct.
Yeah. He was called something Lopez as well,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
And so this guy makes up Manny Lopez, a guy that he has met through allegedly rentboy.com. Now, I feel sorry for rentboy.com because they're getting a bad reputation out of this.
I'm sure
right?
it's a very good service.
I'm sure they provide a lot of very good rent boys.
I've never used it before, but
No.
you know, if they
Yeah.
want to sponsor a podcast, they're welcome to get in touch. Well, fees are pretty high though,
Yeah.
especially for you.
Although rent,
Bet you've got a lot of.
I mean, you can rent these boys
Well,
if you know what I
they'll be
mean.
getting commission on each.
Oh, that's
how it
unbelievable.
works.
I mean, this is going down a dark route.
True.
Where was I even going with that?
You're talking about Manny Lopez.
Manny Lopez. So she eats that up, and basically he says that Manny is forcing him. By the way,
Manny was one of his clients, allegedly.
yeah, and he's basically telling us stories in the same way as, you know, when you explain things to your parents when you fixed their computer. And I know this because I've fixed both sets of computers for my parents. Sometimes you drop in a bit of terminology to make it sound like you've really fixed the computer.
Yeah.
When actually what you did was you just went delete, reinstall.
Control Alt and Delete. Yeah.
But they come in and you go, and they go, you good? And you go, yeah, I'm just give me a few seconds here, Dad. I'm almost done.
Just a problem with the motherboard here. I'm just
yeah,
tweaking
yeah,
things.
exactly.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
sorry, I just need to go into the mainframe and take a look at this. Like, and they go, whoa, wow. That my child's a genius. Now he's gone back to her and he's gone. There's Manny Lopez is forcing you to kill animals and put it on. I want to shock you, Mom.
Dark web. Ooh.
And she's gone. Wow, this.
Do you know that saying, the dark web? What does that even mean? She's loving it. She's eating that up.
She's gone. Rentboy.com is far enough, and he's gone. This is the dark web. There's lots of money.
Yeah.
And she's eating that up. And that's bullshit. Nothing went on the dark web. It was all going up on, Daily Motion or whatever.
So he basically said he's putting him up to it, and if he doesn't comply, like he'll be killed or whatever.
So what did he have on him? Because he also said he had a lot of things on him and things like that. Never answered.
Whatever. But the only thing that gives this any credibility at all and convinces the mother is in one of the videos, the snake video. I don't think we've mentioned that, but there was.
We did mention. Oh, no, we didn't mention.
No, there was a few fucking cat killing videos. I mean, we got to get through this podcast.
Vicious.
One of them, he gets a big fucking python. How does Conor McGregor say it, Gio? Python. So he gets this fucking snake to kill the fucking kitten.
Yeah.
And
it's vicious
there's
as well.
a second pair of hands in the video.
And this snake looks fucking dangerous. It's a huge snake for a start.
It's sort of.
Yeah.
And then
the kitten doesn't quite know what's going on, and it's so fast. It shows an element of like real sadism that they basically get a cat and feed it to a huge fucking snake.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even have the balls to be in the same room as that snake.
That's the point. This is just weird shit.
Yeah.
But she's convinced that Manny Lopez, this character, is the second pair of hands.
Yeah.
Now,
she should have gone
a lot
to the
of people on the internet, I don't know if this is true, have speculated that the second pair of hands is actually the fucking snake handler, and he's agreed to do this.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say the mother.
No, it's a man's pair of hands, I believe.
It's weird looking woman.
So yeah, we'll never know, but
It's possible though, isn't
pretty
it?
sure
Yeah.
Manny Lopez isn't a real person.
Like Manny Lopez doesn't exist,
Yeah.
and the same is said for. There's a point where Luca goes to
The lawyer.
the lawyer, who just so happens to look almost exactly like Michael Douglas.
Who is also in Basic
Basic
Instinct.
Instinct.
Yeah.
Either
He actually says in the opening line, "Has anyone ever told you you look
Yeah.
like Michael Douglas?" He's like, "Yeah, I've heard it a few times." But he lays the
Mental.
foundations to this lawyer. I'm getting chased by a guy called Manny Lopez. He starts sending him images of his face, bruised and battered.
how did he get those images was a question for me. I don't know how he'd have acquired those images, or is he punching himself in the? Is this like a Fight Club?
Let's
style
be honest here. Do you think Luca Magnotta is capable of hitting himself in the face to bruise himself in order to send pictures to a lawyer to make people think that Manny Lopez really exists?
I suppose if you really want to get away with it, you would do that, wouldn't you?
I think it's fair to say this guy's committed. The guy cut off another man's arm and wanked himself off with it. I'm pretty sure he punched himself in his own face.
Sure. I mean, let's ask Rex and see what happens. It's sad. Ultimately, when I'm found guilty of murder, they'll wonder what Toy Story did to influence my murders.
So he ends up in Paris, and later they've claimed that they could tell where he was headed because of the poster that was up in the video of him killing John Lynn. And I don't know if I believe that, but
Because it's a Casablanca poster.
yeah, so
Yeah.
at the end of Casablanca, the movie, the guy says to the girl, "We'll always have Paris," and that's how apparently they knew he was going to Paris. But I kind of think maybe they just fucking connected with us after the fact.
He ended up in Paris and they went, course. Yeah. And what I find hilarious about the whole transit situation he's in is that he doesn't go incognito. He basically goes variation rather than whole other person. So he wears a Mickey Mouse t-shirt, which
Yeah.
by the way is incredibly eye-catching. If
Yeah.
you ever want to go incognito, don't wear an eye-catching thing. And a wig.
Yeah.
The
And
wig, that's
and
all for him.
And the wig is also same colour hair.
Yeah.
It's just longer.
But that's all for him. This adds nothing. You don't get away from the police.
Yeah.
It shows the level that he thinks he's at.
I couldn't believe the casual, and this is what I was saying about the way he killed that guy. Just casual.
I
everything.
also couldn't believe how easily and casually he was just getting away from the police.
Yeah,
It
he
was like,
smoked them.
he was so casual, and yet he's just walking through the airport.
Yeah.
And no one's stopping him. You know, it's not like the instant they found out his name, they go, we should definitely block
Yeah.
anyone like that from leaving the country, blah, blah, blah. It's bizarre.
He travelled under the Luca Magnotta passport.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he had this whole
No,
just casually
to
walked out.
Paris.
See ya.
He made it halfway around the world.
And
to
even in
Europe.
Paris, they were struggling to keep up with him. So they were trying to track him in Paris. They knew he was there.
Well, they'd catch up with him by then.
They, he went to the cash point, drew a load of cash out, just having a good old time. And then he changed his name and just sort of disappeared. Didn't he?
Yeah.
And then he was caught pretty quickly after that. It seemed in the timeline.
He was. Now, Brian, what you're mistakenly thinking is this man was not an expert in espionage, because he wrote a blog post a few years before that, which I also quite appreciated, where he basically said, told people how to disappear
By Luca
by
Magnotta.
Luca Magnotta. You're like, wow, it's like James Bond writing how to kill the villain.
I do like the fact. I think his opening line was like, "Cut everyone off."
Basically,
Rule
yeah.
number one.
Rule number one:
Rule
cut everyone
zero:
off.
don't fuck with cats.
Yeah.
Of course, he left that one out.
Right, he is a moron. But
There
how
you
do
go.
you work out cut everyone off? It's like, yeah, you're trying to disappear, mate. Like that's the point.
Yeah, I think he was like, if you've got a sibling, just stop speaking to them, just ignore
Genius.
them.
Yeah,
That's it.
smart.
Done.
Yeah, that's how you disappear as a person. Yeah.
So he gave them a bit of a blueprint, didn't he? Yeah, to follow him.
Yeah, and so he ended up in Paris. I don't quite know how they lost him, but they did.
They kept
tracked him
basically.
to the hotel.
It felt like, and it was very movie-esque in the fact that every time they'd trace him to a room, they'd burst through the doors, and he'd have gone like the day before.
A bit like Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah.
Yeah, but ultimately in Catch Me If You Can.
But I don't know if he was just going in the room and going, "Yep, I'll make it look like I've ruffled the bed up. I'll make it look like I've been here. I'll just fuck off now."
To be fair, that is what he did in the hotel when they had him on CCTV. They went straight there and he didn't stay the night. So he was trying to throw them off, which is smart.
Yeah.
And he went by foot. So that's another way of disappearing. You know, going by foot, starting to not go on public transport,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Smart. So he ends up. Where did he end up?
He ended up in Germany, in Berlin.
Germany. That's the
Yeah.
one. Right.
And we've got a random internet cafe guy getting interviewed, and he's like, "Yes, I've just been following the case. I was literally watching it on the monitor right there and then. and he walks.
Imagine that.
Just as I'm watching it.
Your heart rate must go.
This guy seemed pretty cool customer.
Yeah.
And the whole point was, like after all of this is mental. The guy wanted to look at himself on the FBI most wanted list, if I'm not mistaken.
Get a laptop.
It was it was the ego that was driving this whole thing. He loves the way he'd look at the Facebook groups, the way he'd read the articles about him. This was another level of, now I'm on the FBI most wanted list. It's another like, wow, I've made it. In his eyes, he's made it.
Have you ever heard of, there are some crimes where they work out that basically subconsciously the person wanted to be caught?
I don't know if that's the case. I think serial killers, they like to flirt with danger. Right. You know, like they like to give you a whiff of it.
Right. So we go, Mom.
Yeah. They're cock teasing, basically. Right. That's what they want to do, and they love. The dream for a serial killer is everyone knowing it's you, but no one A, be able to catch you, and B, be able to prove it's you. And that was what he was looking for.
Satisfying. That is.
So he wanders in, and my favourite thing about this documentary is that it's a documentary, ultimately, about how a Facebook group caught a serial killer.
Yeah.
Not the way it happened.
But
not
they
the way
didn't.
it happened.
They did
Not
nothing.
the way it happened.
Yeah.
That if you weren't to break it down in your head, it's so. Oh yeah, so we got a tip off to a guy called Luca Magnotta. Anyway, we found Luca Magnotta. They gloss over the fact that Luca Magnotta told them it was him. And the fact that he has then handed the fucking evidence over to everyone who will listen to him, the government, the police. He has my ID. He has my name. Like, it's me.
He left it all in bags in the street for you.
Bro, like, it is the easiest open and shut case of all time. And the way he was really caught was some internet cafe guy who has about 5 minutes on camera. Yeah. He doesn't want all of the time. He doesn't want all that bullshit. He's like, yeah, just seen him, went over, looked outside, seen the army were there, went, yeah, lads, get yourself in. I've got Luca Magnotta in the back. He's just checking his FBI most wanted list out. They come in, wheel him out, done. That is how he was caught.
That is what is really incredible.
Fuck
as
all
well
to do with the
this
Facebook group.
Right, but they smoked him out.
They did shit.
They
didn't do shit.
They smoked him out.
They did a few nice little things that didn't equate to anything. I like the fact that they found the dating ad. I like the fact that they learned a bit more about him. But ultimately, it didn't equate anything.
What these people ultimately did was great documentary research. So they researched the whole documentary, and the director went, "They've done it all for me.
They made
fantastic."
the Netflix's job a lot easier.
Yeah, they went, we've laid it all out here in the Facebook group. Gio's been in the Facebook group. He says it's a bit like a museum of the
all the comments,
the whole thing now. Yeah,
so you can go back and read to the actual date.
Correct. Yeah, which is amazing. Really, it's like an investigation room, like frozen in time.
But it isn't though, because it wasn't an investigation room.
But it was an investigation.
Because it was a public chat forum, like a WhatsApp group, where you can hear everyone's bullshit.
What, you don't think the police have WhatsApp? Come on, mate. It's encrypted.
So yeah, he's caught, and
sure,
they bring him back via military air transport because they can't put him on a regular plane in case people find out about it.
He is a killer.
Obviously, the mother calls it overkill. I don't know if she's seen the video of her son brutally murdering someone. That's overkill.
Well, that immediately after that, she then said, obviously he came back in chains, and when they show the picture of him, there's like a mild smirk on his face.
Well, so he had police escort, so it was like 20 fucking police cars were around him. Like, it was like Hannibal Lecter. And did she even compare it to Hannibal Lecter? I think she might have compared it to some sort of thing like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I think it was Hannibal she would have compared it to, because then she'd have seen the video.
But basically, she said, like, this is ridiculous. She went and seen her son when he was locked up, and
she's so deluded. This is so stupid.
She didn't ask him about the murder. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think all of us, if we had a child who committed a murder, you want to know, like, what the fuck did you do? What were you thinking? What happened?
What the fuck?
Do you know the question? I've written down the questions.
How are you?
All she even gave off, she went, it was under Manny's direction. He did as he was told. Those are the two things. And she went, we didn't talk about the murder. I thought to myself, did Manny tell him to take a bite out of his arse, did he?
Well,
did Manny tell him to shove a bottle of wine up his arse?
Yeah. That's what it says on the dark web. Didn't it strike you that instead of saying murder, she actually said we didn't talk about the incident?
Yeah.
So she didn't even say.
She's disconnected. In her mind, he didn't do this.
Do you feel sorry for her in a way?
She cannot look at her child as a killer. She can't do it.
Which is sad, really, because in many ways he was prolific.
It's the only good thing that they've ever done.
But do you feel sorry for her?
The only thing they've ever been good at, rather. I just want to rephrase that. He wasn't a good thing.
That's not something you can go on the
poster. Guy's a fucking failure at everything that he's ever tried in, like modelling, failure, everything.
Which is also weird. It's weird because he would have made a good model. A good, effeminate, kind of, mid-level model, H&M.
That level of delusion that she showed, where she wouldn't even confront her son about what he'd done, for me, it was like, that's the delusion that's got him to a point where he thinks it's acceptable for him to do that to another human being. So because you won't call him out on anything, because you don't love him or yourself enough to have the strength to say, this is wrong, you are going to be held... Because part of loving someone is holding them accountable, is having rules, is setting boundaries. As a parent, you've got to do that. And this kid ran rings around her from day one to a point where she's such a stubborn, stupid old fool that he can murder someone, eat them, do anything he wants to a dead body, and she'll just accept it. Like, we've gone beyond the realm of, like, reality here. She's mental as well. So
she's almost conditioned him, in a way.
He's conditioned her. He has been so much smarter than her from such a young age. He has been playing her for a fucking fool since he was about 10 years old.
Yeah, she does look like that kind of person, doesn't she? Quite
she's still banging on about this Manny Lopez, who doesn't exist. There is zero evidence to say that this guy ever existed.
Her life must be so sad. Just sort of literally... No one wants to be a friend. No one wants to be near.
Her son didn't want to be anywhere near her. You can say that because all he did was fucking travel and try and go and get the fuck out.
Usually fucking life, so.
In his mind.
Yeah. It's part of the lifestyle, Brian. Come on.
So the one thing she alludes to is that she goes, look at the CCTV. He comes out with a recording of what happened and he gives it to Manny Lopez. He was waiting outside in his Range Rover or whatever the fuck. I'm like, yeah, was it blacked out as well, was it? Seems real, that.
Yeah. I love about it. There is no other angle.
Honestly, man.
There is no other angle of that.
No, but genuinely, you don't know what the fuck he was doing.
Yeah.
He come out with something in his hand. Could have been anything.
It could have literally been a Mars bar. It could be he just went out with a snack, came back with some cleaning products.
Literally.
Yeah.
Bullshit, mate. Absolute bullshit. In the documentary, you see the interrogation room. You see he's having a smoke. He asked for a smoke, sorry. Much like Sharon Stone did in Basic Instinct. He does the leg cross. In his head, this grotty little police interrogation room is the big movie scene. He is Sharon Stone.
Yeah.
He even asks for the overcoat and everything, so like he can even dress like her in his head.
Really weird because he's not wearing a skirt, first of all, so we can't see his vagina.
He's got like a big fucking room around him.
Yeah.
It's not nicely lit.
If we're not going to get to see the labia, what's the point? You know? I think that should have been the question they asked.
Sun's out, clips out.
Right. I mean, I don't know if that's the phrase, but it's the way it works is that in the movie, that was one of the sexiest things that has apparently ever happened in film. All men sighted.
So as she crosses her legs over, you see her butt.
During an interview with people trying to find a guilty murder, right?
This is where the link comes, where they piece it together on the documentary where they go, the ice pick that wasn't really an ice pick, the legs pulled, the smoking, the fact that he killed the guy in such a way where there was a big painting or poster above him, and the fact that the guy's tied to the bed, and they then show you the scene from Basic Instinct where she's straddling him and she fucking stabs him, and like it's supposed to be like a sexy scene. In his mind, look at it, he's like recreating this like epic sex.
It's an homage in a way, isn't it? But it's an homage that goes
in his mind, it's reality.
Yeah.
Paying homage is to recreate that with a movie and be the star of the movie. In his mind, this is real.
Yeah, in his mind, it's a script that he's working to.
It's weird when you see scenes in movies like that. You mentioned it the other day to me about like how
the link between life and sex and those kind of things.
Well,
and
killing
death,
and sex in particular, like that part of the movie, she's literally sitting on his dick and then she just stabs him out of nowhere.
Yeah, because it's also a particularly vulnerable moment. and it's also
But yeah, you're laying there, fucking chest open, like
Yeah.
you can't do shit. Like, she's on his dick.
and also the point of sex is to create life.
Yeah.
You know, in a very basic way. So to take it away at that point, there's something
Is
quite
it though?
meaningful.
Sorry.
to take it away at that point, there is something quite meaningful about that. But then there's other movies. Gone Girl, I think she murders him.
Sort of Gone Girl, she's fucking the guy, and then and that's very similar in that like blonde, hot blonde, right in the dick, and then she stabs him so many times that by the end of it, like as he's coming, she starts stabbing him. I mean, she's gonna get murdered, I guess.
Like that, I suppose. Yeah.
And by the end, she's naked and soaked in blood, and it's a very like sexual moment where you're like, I really should want to fuck her, but I kind of do.
It also, the way they film that though is very much there's the sexy vibe, but they're building it up.
You know why? Because it's women in dominant positions though as well. It's a sign of like she's in control, she's on top. She stabs him to fucking death. He is weak, he is vulnerable. Like it puts them in a light which in movies women are never in, really.
Right. Or have rarely been in because the way
Hardly,
women are portrayed.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. And
that's probably why I quite fancy them.
Didn't see that one coming. But you can also see the way they change the camera angles in that film.
Yeah.
They're not portraying it after the death. It's no longer sexy. The camera angle changes to become a lot more clinical. And
the women just dispose.
Yeah, and then there's also American Horror Story.
Ironically, like Luca did, it wasn't like
Done.
Like you're
Done.
nothing.
Yeah, but and the interesting thing is, women in those films are femme fatales. So they are the women who attract the man, and they are so powerful.
It's Black Widow.
They don't mean, yeah, exactly. And he's very simple. So it's like
he attracted him in.
Yeah.
So he's a sex god, and then
and I'm sexy, I'm attractive, I'm
In
a
his
cool
mind.
guy. Yeah,
hence like the looking at himself in
Yeah.
the mirror after the death.
yeah.
So weird.
It's reinforcing that idea. And then the American Horror Story did it as well, where Lady Gaga kills someone. And then even the idea, it's not like this is a new idea, it's an old idea. Like, watch Dracula, the BBC and Netflix thing recently. The whole point of that is that he sucks your blood. There is something that's sexual about it. They imagine him as the person fucking them and those
Yeah.
kind of things.
Yeah.
It's sexual that someone else is exploiting you in some way or something. And that's what he probably gets out of this. There's like an exploitation of life. It's really meaningful. You think about it, it's a very...
In art it is, but in real life it's bad.
Yeah, that kind of meaningful. That's like what the problem is when you first go to university, or you go to university, it's like you're around all these people and you're thinking conceptually.
Yeah.
And you get into this little bubble, and that's why a lot of people, when they first go to university, become like, socialists or any of those kind of... I'm not saying they're bad people, but you can get into extreme ideas. And if you stay in your bubble, you don't leave
You can
it.
start thinking that this is...
You start thinking this is the whole reality of the world. I'm not saying socialism is bad, but you start thinking, well, the world can be this way. And if you're not challenged, nothing ever
what
changes.
I'm saying. He wasn't challenged on this.
And that's a real
The
problem.
guy was obviously alone a lot. He had to have been. To let this get to this point, he couldn't have had a circle of friends. His mother never challenged him. Like, you need people in life who are going to say, dude, what the fuck? And what are you on?
Really fucked up.
But Sharon Stone did look good.
Did you go back? Have you watched that film?
I haven't.
What
I think
you've
I've
seen
seen it
from it
before.
recently on YouTube. It is a really sexy film.
She is a fucking 10 out of 10 though, isn't she?
That era of movies is a very sexy.
She was kind of like the Angelina Jolie in that she looked kind of bitchy, but really pretty
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, he gets found guilty. He pleads not guilty, but he gets found guilty.
You know what I'm really surprised about? He didn't present himself in court. I was really expecting that to be a thing. Like, oh no, I'll do it. Yeah. And then he gets up and he's got all the evidence and all this stuff.
He's such an egomaniac, but he didn't do that.
It must have been so infuriating to be the person representing him. You've clearly fucking
What the fuck are you doing?
Just
Well,
admit
DNA is all over this corpse.
Yeah.
You literally shagged the button. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Not
He goes,
guilty. Not guilty. Didn't do it.
and he goes, have a beautiful day. I'm like, no, seriously.
You're actually going to spend the
You're
rest of
going
your
to
life
prison here,
in prison. Can you just fucking plead guilty?
Ironically now, when the cellmate leaves his cell, he just goes, have a beautiful day. And they're like, Yeah, mate, whatever.
I'm just going to do some press-ups.
I imagine he's isolated now. Do you ever imagine what his life is like in prison?
Apparently he's got a lover in prison. I did a little bit of Googling.
If you're that lover, you're being really fucking careful.
You want to sleep with one eye open, bro.
Yeah.
If you're in top bunk, just be careful.
Should we have some wine tonight?
Imagine.
Yeah, I'm good.
Nah, I'm all right.
Yeah. It reminds me of that
Probably just have the spaghetti.
Reminds me of the Louis Theroux thing where he goes to see all the sex, like the paedophile clinic sort of thing. Yeah. But they're having a party on the day he goes.
Yeah.
And he goes over to the guy who's making the punch. And the guy's making the punch. And he goes, what are you in here for? And the guy goes, I was a date rapist. And you're like, you're making the punch. Okay, absolutely. And then the guy goes, would you like a cup? And he's like, I think I'm good.
I actually heard from his agent, and he's like, oh, he's not doing podcasts at the moment. I'm like,
sure he isn't.
His loss.
Yeah, it is actually, because hearing on the BBC podcast and stuff. Louis, you're more than welcome.
So yeah, he's found guilty, and I guess this leads us to like the end questions that we've got about like where this is all going.
It left me with a lot of questions. It left me with more questions than answered, which sometimes a good documentary will do that, but it didn't leave me with questions which were like.
He has my first question for you.
Okay.
If he'd found fame and he'd been a model and it had all taken off for him,
wow,
would any of this ever have happened? Would he have ever killed anyone? Or would he have just had everything his own way?
You know what? I don't know if he'd have killed someone, but I think something would have gone wrong because he seemed like the kind of guy who was power hungry and sort of crazy in a way.
Yeah.
It's the kind of person where you hear about, on set they're a nightmare. Do you know what I mean? That kind of person. Not a pleasure to work with.
Yeah, maybe like just beat the fuck out of a boyfriend or something like that.
Yeah, or, an assistant or something got cups of coffee in their face.
The reason he was doing these things was for the attention, was for the fame. So if he had the fame and he had the money and all of that, I don't know. I wondered, like, does this ever... Because I also then wondered, working backwards,
right?
How many people, because we see them all the fucking time, who are fame hungry. You watch all these bullshit reality TV shows where they're literally just selling any credibility they have for fucking 5 minutes of made in Chelsea on their what's that, Love Island, all this bullshit. How many of them, if they didn't ever make it, or even further, let's go stuff at models or whoever, like people who've actually got credibility,
YouTubers,
maybe not, but how many of them, if they weren't getting that attention, that
the
they
validation,
want, what would they do? Because this for me was a direct result of where society is going. We're fame hungry. We're like, because you and I don't fall into that. I think it's clear that we're just looking to do the work, and if people like what we do as a result, then you get famous. You get well known. But that's not the goal.
No.
But there's a lot of people who get into. You see certain YouTubers, for example. It's shock. It's they want you to go, what the fuck, and talk about it, and like you say, YouTubers who've gone down that road and paid the price for it, and
very much, yeah.
And some have learned and some haven't. But
I mean, Logan Paul is the most prominent example.
Well, he's the one who opens up about it most, but there's a lot more out there who haven't opened up, haven't admitted where they've gone wrong, and just sort of swept under the carpet and hope no one realizes.
Reveling.
Or carry on doing it, for example. I wonder. Would this be more common? Will this be more common as we go forward? Because society is becoming more and more fame hungry, not less.
It doesn't. And the other thing is the disparity between people who are. So it's a bit like the money thing in society. There is the YouTubers and the models and those people. They're the 1% in society.
Okay.
But because you see them everywhere, you think they're more common. So you think it's a very common and easy goal to achieve.
But
right?
There's another thing. They're imitated as well. So more and more. When you look in some lass you work with, like Instagram, her Instagram is starting to look like she's an influencer.
Right.
I see it all the time.
She's
where,
got like
where
20
where
followers.
random people who've got like 300 followers, maybe 1,000, they're going, thanks,
Topshop
for this. Like, well, you did pay the 20 quid, didn't you?
Exactly.
Like, Topshop didn't give you this.
Yeah.
You went and bought it there at the till. You paid with your card. You're not on a brand deal.
Thank you.
They're putting out Instagram stories. New post.
Yeah.
Don't forget to go and like it. Are you trying to build up engagement?
Yeah.
Are you an influencer? Like, what are you doing?
They're emailing their mother, going, "Can we get some traction on this? I feel like we need to."
Like, can we do a post together? Because I want people to. The whole world is now becoming. even if you're not an influencer or a big name or have a big following, you're acting like one.
But that's
People
because
want to be that way.
They set the precedent for
It's
the
unhealthy.
way that people normally act.
It's unhealthy.
And obviously, I don't know, maybe celebrities back in the day, what celebrities did back in the day, they all just got together and sort of photographed having fun, and that sort of set the precedent. You will get together and you will have fun. Do you know what I mean?
It's just becoming so fucking fake, and it makes people want to aspire to be that way, because a photograph is 1 second out of a 24-hour day, and it's making people want to do that more and more and more.
So,
and people like Luka Magnotta, in my opinion, are going to become more common.
So this feeds into two things. Back in the day, advertising was either very obvious or very subtle. So it was very much like, oh, we'll just put a Coke logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and Coke are happy about that because it associates the hippie lifestyle with Coke.
Mm-hmm.
Or it was buy rice. Do you know what I mean? Now it's so obvious and in your face, and people, and we know this, brands come to you and they go, we want clicks. Put our brand on this, and they'll click it.
It's tacky.
And it's tacky, and and no one really wants to do that in their heart of hearts. Some people do it to pay for the content. What it does is it begs a question: is it nature or is it nurture? Are people born wanting that attention? Also, are people born wanting to have sexual thoughts, or are these people nurtured into needing that kind of attention, needing to be that sort of person? Does their environment make them like that? At what point is it you're evil from birth, or are you made into that sort of person?
Okay,
because his sexual preference, you're not born with sexual preference to fuck a dead body.
Right, so you've asked me multiple questions.
I know.
So we'll start the first one, which is, are you born wanting to be a famous person?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think humans are meant. So what were we meant to be? We're meant to be, for example, we grow crops, we trade. You make this, I make that. There you go. And we're not meant to be mingling on a level where we're all, for example, London. There's millions of people in one tiny little street. That isn't supposed to be happening. We're supposed to have our own space and our own families. We mix with our family. Occasionally, you might do business with a guy. You might drink with a person. You'll socialise to a degree, but not on the level that we're supposed to other people at this point.
And there is an argument, by the way, that people are living basically with a mental illness.
And I'm kind of going that way. So along the way, someone got a bit of recognition for they were the best at this, they were the best at that, and you became kind of town famous. Mm-hmm. Like big fish in a small pond. That was cool, and people like that. And there's a little bit of a thing that comes with that in your brain where you get the endorphins. Yeah. So now,
you're the alpha male.
That was a healthy thing. That was a thing that people could live with. This guy's the best fighter. This guy's the best at this. This guy's the best at poker. Whatever. Now, online, we are so connected, and the endorphins are just pinging like left, right, and centre. And it's like, if you do a video that takes off and goes viral, you can get that buzz, but it's times a million of what we were ever supposed to feel.
Yeah.
And what happens is it becomes addictive. I watched Logan's chat with Russell Brand the other day, and he talked about that addiction. He talked to us about it, like you're in that cycle where it's like more views, more money, more attention, more this, and you don't realise like I'm not supposed to be having this.
It's fitting, and the interesting thing, what you said about that is it's almost like fitting square pegs in round holes, because your body knows you're getting recognition, but it's not recognition that is naturally.
It doesn't matter what it's for. To a degree, and I think with Logan, they talked about an extreme version at that period of time in his life where he got to a point where the whole world stopped for a day and talked about him, and it seemed to echo for a long time. Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is, it's not just about the Logans of this world. Mm-hmm. He is an extreme example on a huge successful scale. I'm talking about the lass in the fucking shops who is Instagram is looking like that as well. She is even on a low level getting those endorphin spikes as well. And what is happening now is it's not. Back in the day, famous people would be famous, and I'm talking about, in the early 1900s and later, like the Elvis Presleys of this world, because of what they did, what they could do, their talents, whether it be comedy, entertainment, acting, singing. But now, because everyone wants to be famous and everyone thinks they can be famous because of bullshit TV, it's creating a society where it's almost like infected with this disease of like, you know, they call like alcoholism a disease. I don't know if I agree with that, but almost like fame hunger. Like it is a disease now, and it's affected so many people.
So let's be honest, it's fame, but it's trivial fame.
It's
you're
bullshit
known,
fame.
yeah, you're
but we
known,
know that, but not they don't know that.
You're known, so you're not known as a singer, but you're known just as you.
As a personality.
Yeah, which is weird because not many of these people have great personalities. They actually just have a personality.
Well, if you want to be famous, you're probably an arsehole.
And part of that is fed into by the fact there's a very small pond of these people anyway, and they like to keep them a small pond of people because you don't want too many people.
Well, if you look at Conor McGregor, for
fucking
example,
the money.
when or a great actor like let's say Leonardo DiCaprio or something, the dedication to the work is what gets you famous. But the minute you take your eye off the ball and concentrate on the fame, that's when you lose your way. Like Conor McGregor lost his way. Now it seems he's gone back to the work, the dedication, the craft, the martial arts. That's what got me there, and that's what will keep you there. And as long as you stay on that, people will like you, people will respect you.
Right.
But when you become all about the attention and the bullshit and the money and the fame, you lose that. And I just think that we're talking about an extreme example again. People are going the wrong way.
And I get that, and that's the worry, is that actually people then, and again, it's fitting square pegs into round holes, because your brain then suddenly thinks, well, if I can get famous and I need to get famous, what's the fastest way to fame?
Exactly.
And actually, in the society we have, which is quite a pleasant society to live in, it's a civilized society, right? But before civilized society, you could also be famous for doing uncivilized things.
But no, but Logan, like go back Logan.
Yeah.
What Logan did, his biggest viral video was to shock the fuck out of people, and that is going to become more common because what you're saying is, how many people want to work really hard like Conor McGregor had to? Can't be asked. Do I have to get a skill? Can't be asked. What I want to do is shock the fuck out of someone, get a viral video, make it an easy way, and then afterwards I'll worry about what I've got to do.
Sure,
then.
so you sort of free radicalize about it. Right.
So what I'm saying is, the more people feel hopeless in life, just like Luca Magnotta did, the more people really want fame and success, just like he did, and the more that they've got no talent, which is a lot of people out there, we are going to get the odd cycle. And Luca's the first, but I guarantee there's going to be many who go, fuck it, what do I... And just like Ricky Gervais once said in his joke, he went, the journalist asked him the question, what would you say to anyone who wants to go out and be famous? And he goes, I'd tell them to go out and kill a prostitute. Yeah. You know, the joke was, if fame of any kind is what you're after, then do the worst thing possible. He said it as a joke, but the sad thing is, pretty much that's what Luca Magnotta did in his head, is anything, and I guarantee we'll see more cycles like that.
And that's part of it. I guess the wider thing is what else comes with that. You'll see more other crimes or those kind of things. And also murder and those kind of things. It is a very... I don't know how to put this without sounding bad, but the civilized, uncivilized thing, there is an uncivilized part of everyone. There is like an animal part of everyone. Yeah. And taking someone else's life, or taking another life, and, you know, eating and all those kind of things, is part of nature in a way. And so sometimes those things like...
You're referring to hunting, not killing.
Not killing. Although, being in a hierarchy is also just part of nature. Yeah. And so if you can put yourself above someone else in a hierarchy, there's an interesting aspect to that. You do worry that there will be more people who want to get higher in the hierarchy and just start to climb through doing that sort of thing. Because it's an easy conclusion to make. Genghis Khan was famous for killing lots of people and fucking lots of people. The Romans are the same. All these people in history. Medieval times was about fucking and killing. Henry VIII was famous for fucking and killing. There's a lot of people in history, like Henry VIII, who remember him. Not only for being a king, but also
he was a handsome guy as well, to be fair to him. We also mentioned earlier about like the way people go when they've got no choice almost. Like, so we talked about Katie Hopkins and Piers Morgan. So there'll be other people who they do achieve a level of fame, but when they realise the door's closed on them, in terms of being the good guy, they go, well, I'm going to double down then.
Sure.
I'd rather be notorious than nothing. Than nothing. You know what I mean? Then that's the option. Do I fade away, or I just say more outlandish, outrageous shit that even I don't believe, just to keep people triggered.
So that's the thing. And what goes with that is that once you're in that circle and once you're feeding into that cycle, you can't quite see that what you're doing is wrong because the people around you are going, yeah, great, keep going. So I'd imagine everyone on Good Morning Britain goes, morning Piers, good to see you. Can I get you coffee? Yeah. What are we covering today then? Oh God, you're going to tell the LGBT community that they're blah, blah, blah. You're going to do this. You're going to wake someone up. They'll push you further into it. And Katie Hopkins is the same. She's followed by a load of fucking nuts, basically. Like crazy people who are just ultra-nationalist. Now, there's nothing wrong with liking your country, but there's something wrong with going, kill everyone who's not British or like all mental things like that. These people are just clinging to any kind of relevance and you're getting financially rewarded.
It's working.
Piers Morgan's getting paid millions. Katie Hopkins is getting funded by basically ultra whatever she attaches herself to. Ultra anti-feminist, ultra blah, blah, blah. She's a bullshitter. It's, sadly, cunts get rewarded. It's true.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
You've got to admit yourself, you came up through partly being an angry guy, and that was part of your image, but that was part of what built you.
Yeah.
The good thing for you was that wasn't all you were, and actually you were surrounded by people, and you had the strength yourself to be like, well, that's not all.
Well, actually, I think that there is bad ways to do it, and like I sort of recognise that. I thought to myself, like, there was a few Newcastle fans out there, and they were kind of like, you know, you're really not painting our club in a good light here. Yeah. And because I was the only Newcastle YouTuber at the time, and obviously I was the biggest, I was like, you know what it is? I got to the end of one of the seasons, and I thought I need to make a change because I don't like the way I'm doing the videos, and also I'm repeating myself because Newcastle are shit every week at that point. So I was like, I just don't want to be a one-trick pony and do the same thing and say the same thing and paint the club in a bad light and be disliked for that reason.
But it's hard to break that as a cycle, isn't it? Because if you're being rewarded for it, which
I was financially,
you were at the time,
and I didn't have any. I had no. Obviously, people can look back at it now and go, you went and done the podcast and that's taken off, so therefore you're fine. But at the time, there was a belief where, and Newcastle were relegated, I remember a load of people were saying to me, you're done. Like, your channel's done. No, you're never going to move forward without having Newcastle videos, which is laughable now. But at the time, it really did. It was a bit me. I was like, maybe they're right, because shouting and getting angry about Newcastle was all I really. I mean, I made jokes as well, and I did some funny videos, but it was what I was known for. And when Newcastle had a bad game, you could guarantee I was going to get huge views, and that was a cycle that I was in. Yeah. And I think it's fair to say, like, fan channels in general are in that cycle, and it is difficult because for me, I didn't want to just be a Newcastle guy, but I can imagine it is hard to break out of that and admit, you know what it is. And I can admit it now. I was using like. I don't know. Was I you? I was speaking the truth, but I guess I was exploiting a situation for my own benefit.
You were focusing,
and it wasn't like in an evil way. It was just like, well, I want to talk about Newcastle. Newcastle are playing shit, and if I do videos on it, people will watch them.
So you were focusing on negative truths, which basically got you further along. Yeah,
and it was sort of, it was working for me, but you know, in your head, you know when you put rant on a title. But I knew what I was doing, and I knew I was going to get the views, and I wasn't thinking of like the whole picture. I was thinking about me. How is this going to benefit me?
Also,
and
your brain
I accept with the criticism, like, yeah, I am doing the wrong thing here.
But your brain rewards you immediately for that as well.
Because I was getting those endorphins.
The views, the money. There's a bit of money.
The endorphins were, because when people were going, oh, that was great, that was hilarious. Really, a lot of the time they were laughing at me because I was the angry nutter.
And that's the point. Is for want of a better phrase, it's almost like being an Uncle Tom of Newcastle United, where the big brands are rewarding you, or the betting company that at the time or whatever is going, well done, mate. You keep doing these rant videos, and we'll sponsor your channel. Yeah. And you're not selling out, but it. Anyway, the point is, it's analogous.
I wasn't saying things I didn't believe, but I was certainly aware of the system I was complicit in.
But to take that analogy, that's now influencers. That's influencers everywhere. Oh, yeah. And on a wider society, he got rewarded for being a nasty person.
Well, he got what he wanted, and that he got famous.
He'd seen True Geordie, and he thought, well, he murders Pardew every week. So, and that's a real question. Without the group, does this happen. Without these guys setting up the group, focusing on him.
What would he have progressed? Absolutely.
To that level?
I'm not going to blame the group for that, because he would have found a way. He wanted recognition. If he didn't get the recognition with the first video, the second, the third, he would have just kept up in the even with the group, he kept up in the ante. Like, the group weren't enough. The group. So if the group weren't enough for him, then what would have been enough? Nothing. It was. He wanted the whole world to know about it.
I just wonder whether he would have been as motivated, or as successful, or as in his goal.
I think they definitely got him off to start off with. They got him hard.
Yeah.
And he went and finished the job with other people, other
Which
things.
they kind of brush on, but it made me uncomfortable.
Here's a question. If we were to look back at what they did, what would you call them? Because for me, I was left, are they online investigators, or are they just glorified stalkers? Because a lot of what they did, there's things that, so we're talking about YouTube, like for example right now, there's a Reddit group that are pestering Boogie2988, or they're calling him out, some would say, on his lies that they're claiming that he's lying about. So one thing Boogie claimed was that he got swatted.
Right.
Now the group have went and checked the records of the police, and they went through, I don't know what it was, I heard it was like 4,000 call-outs of the police in his local area, because they found his address out. And they're calling him out on, like, you know, you're lying, we've seen the records, they didn't come to your house at all. And in my head I was like looking at that going, this reminds me of like, don't fuck with cats.
Yeah.
Because you're literally, but are they just being investigatory?
No.
Or are they invading personal like space? Or
No.
even if he is lying, what are you doing checking up on it?
Well, I mean, because people have this idea that society works because you hold people to what they say and that they're accountable. You have to be held accountable to what you say.
But
So
by whom? By the police when you cross the line. If you
Yeah.
don't cross the line, like, who are you to sit and go through police records?
Now, the funny thing is, that's always been the case. There haven't been enough people in the police force ever to deal with the amount of crime there is, right? Ever. But the problem was, in the past, there was only limited amounts of media during the day. So you read the newspaper or you watch TV and you go, oh, that's the crime that happened today.
Yeah.
Now, because of the internet, we know there's multiple crimes happening every day all around us. There's people being robbed, there's people blah, blah, blah. That's always happened. There's always been crime everywhere. But now it feels more prevalent because people hear more about it. So people become more motivated to go, I'll be a vigilante. For me, I call them vigilantes, and here's where I draw that line in the sand. Vigilante, not stalker, because he actually did something wrong.
But they had no proof of it.
They had no proof. Well, they had proof because they had a video. So they had proof that something wrong had happened.
Not from him. They didn't know it was him.
No.
The only way they knew it was him is because he said. So for me, they didn't have enough proof to go on the level where they send someone out to his fucking house. If you go to someone's house with no proof that they've done anything wrong, and you don't know them, that's kind of stalking.
Yes. However, if they found out that if they'd gone to the house and they found out he'd done nothing wrong, they wouldn't have followed up.
But I don't know. But
he knows no different.
This debate isn't about whether or not what Luca did was wrong. This debate was, did they operate in a fair and just way?
But
and did they play by the rules?
I get what you're saying.
Because I think that this might inspire a whole load of other people into trying to do the same sort of thing, and they might target people, much like they targeted the other guy who committed suicide. I mean, should they have focused a little bit more on what did we say to him?
Well, that's
maybe they just were like, oh, that didn't happen.
But that's not what you're asking. And what you said to me is, are these people stalkers?
Okay.
You didn't say, well, their technique's wrong. So
well, I think I kind of feel like that. Like, were they fair and just in
making the accusations? They were not fair and just. In doing what they were doing, yes, because they were trying to. Their end goal was allegedly to catch a murderer or to catch a cat killer. It's the same with cancel culture on YouTube. Okay. Accusations get made before people are 100% sure.
Yeah, and I think that's dangerous. That freaks me out a bit. That's more because we're seeing it all the time where people are getting wrongly accused of shit on YouTube, and it's all over.
And I get what you're saying there.
What I'm saying is people need to respect boundaries and respect and leave things in the hands of the law.
So what boundaries do you respect and what boundaries don't you respect?
Well, I think there's one thing that would make life a lot easier. This whole system, this whole thing. almost like a passport to get online. I think that we should all have a unique number, a unique code. So you know when you sign up to a social media site and you have an email, you shouldn't have an email. You should have your unique code. This is for you, this is for me, and this is my code. And because right now, in order to catch people, all right, you can trace it to a certain house or a certain, but that's not, so it's not nailed down enough. Do you know what I mean?
So is that unique code, be clear with me here, do they know everything you do online?
No. So
when would they
so
not
the
know?
point I'm making is I have no problem with anonymity online. I think freedom of speech is important. I think anonymity is important. Some people just want to not be themselves. That's fine. As long as you're abiding by the law, that's cool. If you upload a video which shows you doing something to a cat, and we need to know who you are, all we need to do is enter your username, send it to YouTube and go, who is this? Whose code is this? For example.
So how do you watch porn online anonymously?
Well, you don't. You're on Safari.
Would the government know about that?
Well, no, but only if you did something wrong. That's the
Okay.
point. If you get reported for doing something wrong, then we've got who did it. So, for example, on Twitter, there's so much abuse tweeted out. There's racism. There's all sorts of horrible things where people get away with it, or it's very difficult and takes a very long time to track down these people. We need to make this snappy. We need to get
I
these
see what
people
you're saying. Then people watch our David Icke podcast, and David Icke goes, the government are trying to track everything you do. They're trying to control your every action. So which one is it? Because
But it isn't which one, though. Once again, I've got no problem with doing anything you want to do, be free, yada, yada, yada. But if you break the law, so the problem that we've got right now is the law was brought in a long, long time ago. And the law is there. And in the last 20 years, the world has changed. We've now got this sort of shit going on that we're talking about. We've now got, look at what I went through, look at what many people have gone through, where you're victimized online, you're targeted.
Right.
There's horrible people out there who can do things and get away with it.
So
because there's a wall of hidden, you don't know who they are, you don't know where
Not really.
people can disappear.
So what you're saying is
Be accountable.
publicly facing the account could be anonymous, but privately the company will know who that is.
Absolutely.
Right.
And the company can go, it's this unique code, here you go, police, not to me, not to anyone else. The police have the right to get that code if you've done anything illegal.
So
Just the one
What
thing,
should we go into?
the world's changed, the law needs to change, internet needs to change with it. We need people to be accountable, because people are uploading mad shit online now.
So this is a bit Pandora's box, isn't it? Where once the box is open, you can't close it.
But it's
Yeah.
crazy already, man. We
No.
need to get a cap on this.
But I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
But what I'm really saying is then that leads you down a road of, okay, which law do
Yeah,
you apply? Because there are people out there, and you know, we hear about it in the UK, there are gangs of people who go around enforcing what they consider to be Sharia. And those people go, well, this is the law that we want.
Well, whatever country you're in, that's the law that you're abiding by.
Right.
Okay. So, to
But
go
he has
with
got it on the
that,
hard drive, right?
there are then people,
Right.
like these Don't Fuck With Cats people, who went to the police, told them they had evidence, and didn't get heard.
Right.
And they felt that they could have helped them solve it quicker, they could have profile, all those kind of things.
Tweeting the police is one thing, but you and I both know that when you're hell bent on the police knowing about something,
You can
there's
get them.
steps that you can take.
You can go to your local police and
Exactly.
call them, right?
So fair play, you tweeted them, but bro, you could have done a lot more.
Yeah, you could have left your bedroom, basically. is the
But I
point.
mean,
What we are seeing is that there are people who aren't quite operating in normal society, and I do think these Don't Fuck With Cats
there's a
people
lot of dangerous people out.
these people in that group arguably
Yeah.
are operating on the fringes.
I heard.
Of society.
Obviously, we've had a webcam girl on this show before. I remember her saying to me, like, some of the things she'd got asked for.
Yeah.
She was like, "You'd be shocked how many pedos are living in plain sight." Like, we think of pedos as being like a one
million.
Like,
yeah.
when they get caught, you know about who they are.
You think there's like 50 pedos in England? And we
Exact-
know them all.
Genuinely,
You know?
she was like because she was a young looking lass. Most of her clients were
Older.
people who wanted her because she was young. So they'd ask her things like, "This is the one that freaked me out." Even to this day, have you got any school photos of you? That's what they were asking her. So, and this is the thing, she was like, you just wouldn't realise how many of these motherfuckers are out there. And this is why we need like codes or have our own passport or whatever. Because if she could then go to the site and go, "You see this guy who signed up, I'm worried, I think we need to report him to the police." Boom, like
I get it.
we need a grip on
I
it
get it.
because the internet has just gone crazy.
Yeah, that
It's
makes
gone
me
mental.
that makes me really
There's people tweeting
uncomfortable.
me, saying things like abuse. There's a part of me that would love to be able to just get their name and just be
I'm
like,
sure.
"Let's have it out, son.
Yeah,
I'll make you piss your fucking pants, pal."
yeah, with your unique code.
I
I see your point.
No,
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
So overall, do you think the group was good, bad, or neutral? And you don't really mind that they existed, but ultimately the story was mistold.
I found them entertaining, and I think that their heart was in the right place, even though I've given them a bit of shit. And they had very little impact on this investigation, ultimately.
There's no point in being a villain if no one chases you.
Yeah, but the police did that and the police caught him, so well done to the police.
The police were a little late to the scent.
The police were struggling, fair
Yeah.
play.
But also the police were a little late. So when the cats were killed, the police should have known about that.
I think 100% they should.
With YouTube Premium, you can download your videos and watch them without Wi-Fi. Take your videos everywhere.
This next one is called Call Me Geraldine.
Hey, Geraldine, is that a man or a woman?
It's a woman.
Oh,
Yeah. Female, 26. This next one is called Call Me Geraldine.
hey,